Passive income. It's the dream, right? The idea of making money while you sleep. But let's be honest, for a lot of us, it sounds more like a scam than a real strategy. Well, today, we're going to cut through all that noise. We're going to explore 5 very real lessons learned from some pretty unexpected teachers that show a practical way to actually start generating income more passively. Let's get into it. So, here's what we've got on top. First, we're going to bust the biggest myth about what passive even means. Then, we'll dive into 4 really different strategies: owning a piece of a business, running an online store, getting into property, and yeah, even selling your own knowledge. And then at the end, we'll talk about the big one. Where do you even start?
Okay, first things first. We absolutely have to talk about the word passive, because the idea that you're just going to sit back and get rich doing nothing, it's a total myth.
And this quote, man, it really hits the nail on the head. The term itself just screams, get rich quick. And we're all taught, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But the reality of passive income is actually way more interesting and a lot more achievable than the name lets on.
Right, so here's the actual idea. Passive income isn't about no work. It's about doing the work up front. Think of it like this. In a normal job, you trade an hour of your time for an hour of pay. The second you clock out, the money stops. Passive income is all about breaking that link. You build something, an asset, one time, and that asset keeps generating value and income long after you finish the initial work. All right, our first strategy. And this one starts in a place you would never expect. A dusty old warehouse from back when I had a paper route as a teenager. What I learned in there completely changed how I thought about who could be an investor. Seriously, every week I drop off papers and hear these guys chatting about the stock market. And then one day, one of the workers just casually says he's a part owner of ExxonMobil. I was floored. My mind was blown. I always thought investing was for rich guys in suits, and that one little comment just showed me that anyone with even just a little bit of money can own a piece of a huge business. So how does that actually work? It's really pretty simple when you break it down. First, you buy shares, which are just tiny little slices of a public company. Then, when that company does well and makes a profit, they might decide to give a little reward back to their owners. And since you're an owner, that means you. That cash payment is called a dividend. It's literally a thank you for being a part owner. Okay, so let's make this super simple. Imagine a company called Mark's Mugs asks you to invest $1. In return, they promise to pay you 4 cents every single year. That 4 cents is a 4% yield. Now I know, 4 cents doesn't sound like much, but the principle is everything. Scaling that idea across a bunch of investments over many years, well, that's how you build real wealth. But hey, a quick word of warning here. Don't just get lured in by the highest dividend percentage you see. A lot of the time, that's actually a red flag that a company is struggling. The smart move is to focus on the long-term health of the business. Spread your money out across different industries, and hey, if you're not comfortable picking individual stocks, low-cost index funds are a fantastic lower-risk way to diversify automatically.
All right, lesson number 2. And this one comes from someone on the total opposite end of the spectrum from the warehouse worker. A young tech whiz who showed me just how powerful selling online can be.
No joke, this is a true story. I ran into a guy named Alan, who I literally used to build Lego with as a kid, and it turns out he was now running an eBay business that was pulling in over $100,000 a month. That conversation was a lightning bolt moment for me. It was my first real look at a business that sells products all over the world 24/7. And you know what's crazy? You don't even need to touch the products yourself. I mean, look at this comparison. On the left, you've got the old school model where you're responsible for everything. But on the right, with drop shipping, you basically just become the marketing department. You sell the product, and some other company, the supplier, stores it and ships it directly to your customer. You never even see it. But no matter how you do it, a few things are always true. First, you've got to protect your profit margins. A sale doesn't mean anything if you're not actually making money on it. Second, find your niche. Sell stuff that's either super popular or so unique that you don't have much competition. And finally, get good at marketing. In a packed online world, better photos and better descriptions are what make people click buy on your page instead of someone else's. Okay, let's move on to our third idea, which is a classic for a reason. This lesson came from my best mate, Stuart, who really opened my eyes to one of the safest long-term investments out there, real estate. Now, most of us hear property investing and immediately think you need a massive pile of cash for a down payment, which just feels out of reach. But that's a huge misconception. There are actually a few different ways you can start making money from real estate, even if you can't buy a whole house yourself. The first way in is through crowdfunding. Just imagine a big pot of money, A bunch of people who can't afford a property on their own all chip in what they can. Then an investment company takes that big pot of money and goes out and buys a bunch of properties. As those properties make money from rent, everyone who chipped in gets their share of the profits. Simple as that. The second way in is something called rent-to-rent. This is where you actually rent a property yourself, and then, with the owner's permission, of course, you re-rent it to other people, usually on sites like Airbnb. You manage the property and you keep the difference. You're basically the landlord, but without the mortgage. And then, of course, there's the traditional way, buying it yourself. You save up a down payment, usually somewhere between 10 to 20%, and get a mortgage. And here's the magic of this model. Your tenant's rent is what pays off your mortgage. So over time, they are literally building your wealth for you, leaving you with this incredibly valuable asset. Okay, our final strategy, and you could argue this is the most powerful one in today's world. It's a lesson that was inspired by everyone from world-famous billionaires to regular people. And it's all about monetizing the one thing you already own, your knowledge.
I once had this conversation with Richard Branson, and we were talking about how the world was changing. And the big takeaway from that chat was that information, it was becoming more valuable than gold. That one idea completely changed the way I thought about business.
I mean, just look at these companies today. Airbnb is the biggest accommodation provider in the world, and it doesn't own a single property. Facebook is a massive media platform that creates zero content. These giants of the new economy don't sell physical things. They leverage information and networks. So how do you actually do this? You package what you know into a digital product. You create it one time, maybe it's an online course, an ebook, an app, whatever, and then you can sell that same thing over and over and over again, forever. There's no manufacturing, no shipping, just profit sold passively, even while you sleep. So we've covered dividends, e-commerce, property, digital products. I know, it's a lot to think about. But the one thing that connects all of these, the real starting point for any of them, isn't about how much money you have. It's about using what you already know. The warehouse worker understood value. The Lego builder mastered online retail. Everybody has an angle, some unique knowledge from their job, their passion, their life experience. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What's yours? What unique knowledge do you have that you could package and share with the world?